Hi, once again I'm Sydney and I am a servant of the Almighty God. Today is a special day and I wanted to do this episode about what's the real benefit of recognizing God's omnipotence. Well, the real benefit to each and every one of us and all generations going forward in this civilization is the foundation of a global community based on love, respect, and caring. Because when we recognize that we are all created by God, we are all part of His diversity, just as He's created diversity across fauna and flora, different animals, different plants. We see all these different strains. It's the same for humanity. And we are recognizing that. Science is enabling us to recognize that we have these common traits that enable us to be diverse and yet be so beautiful when we interact with each other based on love, respect, and caring. So we will recognize that we must, as we recognize God's omnipotence, we recognize we have one creator. We can move forward with respect and honor for all his diversity. It is also important as contrasting with that concept of nature, where it's the strong survives and we do not have to care. There is no accountability. It also gives us that very, very, very important respect for the rule of law, the original being the commandments. We also must recognize that we always place principles above personalities, because once we get into personalities and what's important on an individual, we can get into that cult of personality, which unfortunately pervades much of our religious as well as secular societies. We see one individual who issues laws, commands, and they use hate and their personal shortcomings to direct followers who are based on their personalities. When we place principles above people, that keeps us consistent. This is why, in addition to the basic commandments, these messages guide, I use that as my guide. Understanding that our science reveals God's methods. The key to meeting God's expectation of us is self-control, and diversity is His. As servants, we must honor His diversity. So when we respect the rule of law and we place principles above people, just as we recognize the quote-unquote laws of nature, which I refer to as the rules of creation that have been revealed to us, we see that commonality between us across the globe. So from the poles to the equator, we see the common things that nature and science reveals to us. We recognize we have this one creator. And so it does not mean that we get rid of his diversity. We do not understand why, and that's okay. He has created his diverse communities across the globe. We respect that. We also must recognize that he has granted resources across the world for all his peoples, all his tribes, quote unquote. He has placed resources there. We should resist that urge, that greed that enables one group to decide that they will usurp the resources allocated to people without extending any of the benefits to the peoples in that area. We must curb our desires to be greedy, to have the most powerful trample upon his other creations. These are the things when we recognize the accountability, because really those who have the capabilities, whether technological or otherwise, should really be like the trees planted by the river. They should enable and uplift the rest of civilization so that their legacies would be part of uplifting, so that they can be remembered with pride, unlike many who have gone before. And even now we see those who just want to hoard. And it's in a sense it's a wonderful thing that we have a finite time. Else they would continue to hoard, and they would continue with the greed and the deception and the hate that many of them try to propagate through their followers. So it is really important to recognize the true benefit of recognizing God's omnipotence is the fact that we create a legacy of moving towards a better civilization. We personally benefit from being more peaceful, more loving, more in respect of all of his creations, and we moved our civilization to be more as he would have us. The things that we are taught, the things that we should hate is sin. We need to learn to love each other. We need to learn to love all of his creations. We need to have that respect. The things we should reject is hate. We should be rejecting individuals who use the greed, deception, hate to divide us. Those who divide us, those are the individuals we should be wary of and be very careful. We should reject those qualities. We should also reject those who want us to go back in time. It is amazing that indeed, even today, when we see fascism, we see all of these things that want to take us back in time to some mythical period. But simply the fact that they want to move us back in time, and they now postulate that somehow history is circular. We need to reject that. With God, recognizing his omnipotence, recognizing that we have a creator, we can be better. We are not trapped in some circular history. We may occasionally, just as moving from one mountaintop to another mountaintop, an even higher mountaintop, we may occasionally have to descend into that valley where things look bleak. But as we learn more and we recognize the living, omnipresent, omnipotent God, we will move to higher mountains and ultimately to where he intends us to be. As we move forward, recognizing the living God, we will unleash synergies, yet on synergies that we have not even imagined. Because we will be living as he intends us to. There will be magical moments in our history where we will realize many synergies with our sciences, with the coalescing of peoples across the world. There will be no divisions except for the diversity that he intends. So we respect the diversity, but when we treat each other with the love and the respect and the care that God intends, we will be moving into the societies and the type of civilization that he intends for us. And he loves us all. And so he will enable us to realize many things that at this point in time, we cannot imagine. We cannot project the great things that are in store for us. So, with these things in mind, I would, if you can, pick up a copy, because all of this is, the inspirations are all in the Humanities Inflection Point, and I want you once again to recognize that this is not a coincidence that you encountered this episode. I want you to recognize much of this, it's choices that you have made that on this path. It was intended that the choices that you have made would set you on this path, so you would encounter this, and if it touches you, then you will be part of this, what I call building the bridge to a better world. I want to thank you for taking the time. Again, I'm Sydney. I am a servant of the Almighty God. And until next time, may God bless.